My name is Ron Branson, and I live in the San Fernando Valley, North Hollywood, California. Back years ago, around the 1980s, I experienced some things I couldn't believe were happening, such as I was told by the County of Los Angeles I have a hearing for my wife. She worked for the district attorney's office, and we had a judge that his name was Epstein, and when we saw what was going on, I couldn't believe what was happening. And eventually, on appeal, I was thinking, when these judges see what's going on below, they're going to swallow their Adam's apple. Well, I realize that a lot of people today are experiencing this type of thing. They think they have a bad judge. But through my years of experience through the judicial system, I realized that I, as well as these people, have a typical judge. This is the way judges are. That's the way they are throughout the country. I had a lady from back east write to me, and she said, "Mr. Branson, I was about to talk to you about my judge. I thought I had a corrupt judge. But I've been listening to what you've been saying, and what you are saying is that is the way the judicial system is throughout the entire United States." That is indeed what I'm saying. I've had the experience from inside the district attorney's office. My wife is the head secretary for the County of Los Angeles in Santa Monica. And so we had opportunity of rubbing shoulders with the district attorney deputies. I've been in front of the grand jury and talked with the foreman of the grand jury. We talked about this corruption and how the grand juries are being used even by the district attorney's office. One thing that's going on is the district attorney assigns a deputy inside of the grand jury to be their advisor. Now, a lot of people don't know what's going on with the grand jury. They just think, hey, they're a arbitrary outfit, and they just indict anyone they target. Well, the fact is, here's what's happening. The judges are examining a pool of people, usually retired people, and selecting people to serve on the grand jury. They pick 23 to serve for the next year. They're usually, the most of them are older ladies, and then it's turned over to the district attorney. The district attorney has an indoctrination orientation for these grand juries. And basically, he lets them know that they work for the district attorney's office and what their jobs and the specifications are. So these people, these 23 people, have the mentality that they somehow are part of government, and this is very, very deceptive, because the whole purpose of the grand jury is to be a check and balance against arbitrary, corrupt government. In fact, when under the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, it says that no person may be held to answer for any capital or infamous crime but upon presentment or indictment of the grand jury. In other words, the government must come to us, the people, to get a okay to proceed. We call this probable cause. In every felony case under the Constitution, the government has to get our permission in the forum of the grand jury to proceed further on every felony. But what's happened is they've turned the grand jury into a pet, a lapdog, if I might express it that way. And the grand jury believes, because they're indoctrinated to believe this way, that they're nothing but an agent of the prosecution. No, 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 no. The prosecution is supposed to come to the grand jury and make their case and let the people decide whether they're going to allow the prosecution to go after any individual. Now, there's two phases of the grand jury, both a shield and a sword. They are a shield to protect everybody from arbitrary government, when government will come after the people. And they are a sword. That sword is for going after both individuals and principally for going after government corruption. In other words, access to the jury, the grand jury, should be free by all of us. We are the people. The grand jury is us. They represent us. They are the conscience of the community, and we should have free access to them. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is the district attorney is blocking the people from getting access to the grand jury because the grand jury is believed, what they're teaching them is, we're separate from the people. We work for the district attorney's office. That is not true. That is dangerous. It is unconstitutional. But this is precisely what is going on. Early in my experience, I had a Superior Court judge that was committing crimes. And under the Constitution, Fourth Amendment, you have to fill out or submit an affidavit or declaration of criminal conduct and be specific. The Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, papers, housing effects against unreasonable, and the key factor, unreasonable search and seizure shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause set forth by specifically stating the person and or thing to be seized. It's very, very particular, but the order is, it starts with an affidavit or declaration of the conduct, and then a determination of probable cause, and then we got the question of reasonableness. In non-felony cases, we have magistrates that determine probable cause. These are other than felonies. But in felonies, only grand jurors can determine whether the government gets a shot at us. And I want you to note that in the Constitution it sets forth, it says, no person shall be held to answer. It doesn't say be convicted. They can't even hold us to answer. That's like an arraignment. They can't have an arraignment. They can't call you into court. They can't say, you're accused of such and such, how do you plead? Unless they get an indictment from a grand jury. That's the law. That's the superior law. That's the supreme law of this country. And we're not just talking about something somebody passed by legislation. No, we're talking about the Constitution. And every official, every judge, every governor, all legislators of every state must raise their right hand and swear by an oath to uphold that Constitution as the supreme law of the land. But what we have going on is totally different. I have learned this. I have become an authority on this. I have taken cases into the courts. When I saw government corruption, I thought, well, the thing to do is you go to court and you argue the case. I thought that, well, if the law is on your side and the facts, you win. That's just logical. Everyone thinks that. We all think that, and that's justified thinking. It's what you call reasonable. But government is not reason. It's not eloquence. It was President George Washington that said that government is not reasonable and is not eloquence. It's like fire. When a fire burns your house down, you don't reason with it. There's no reasoning. And what happened was, every time I brought an action in court against the government, it was the judges that covered for the corruption. And I began to realize that the problem that we in this country are suffering from is not because government corruption, not because government is corrupt or officials are corrupt. It's because some judge somewhere at some level, and I contend all levels, all the way up from the bottom to the top, are covering for that corruption. I was speaking to a group one time, and I said, everything that frustrates you, everything that you think that's evil is going on in this country is taking place because some judge at some level, either state or federal, is keeping that alive, making provision that it will control. And I had a gentleman off to my left raise his hand, and he was dressed in a very sharp white shirt. It looked like it was something just came out of the wrapper. And he raised his hand, and he says to me, he says, Mr. Branson, he says, I don't think God is so concerned about corrupt judges as he is about murdering babies. Well, I knew where he was coming from, but he just proved my point. He was saying that we shouldn't allow for abortions in this country. And what's the famous case of Roe versus Wade? What is that about? The U.S. Supreme Court said that you have a right, if it's your choice to make, if you want to abort your child. A child in the womb is not to be considered a human being. But this is contrary to the Word of God, because I am a minister. I know what Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 says. Before you were formed, I knew you. So God knows us whether we do or not. We may say, well, it's just a pregnancy. There's those that says it's just kind of a blob, and we can get rid of it if we so choose. And the U.S. Supreme Court says, yes, that's right thinking. You can abort if you find it essential to do so because you don't want the child or you don't want to raise it, face the expenses, etc. They use it for a form of birth control. Now,